Okay. I've been teaching a couple film classes at Lakeshore High School, film analysis and film production, and I've been teaching. I think it's like this is year 11, I believe. So for me, it started with wanting to do some acting, and I wasn't. But also, there's a good part of me that's like a homebody, and so I wasn't ready just to tear off for Hollywood. That didn't sound appealing to me, and so film, like just being in movies, just isn't as easy as like doing theater stuff. So I was like, I like acting, I'll try theater, and kind of went that route in a lot of ways. One, just in terms of doing acting, which I did enjoy. It's really nerve wracking. I like film, felt safer. Like you screw up a line, do another take. In theater, if it's the performance, you, you know, I mean, it's certainly more of a risk, and you either know it or you don't. And so, but that was my only time to like perform, and so I still really enjoyed that. And then made a decision to go into an acting program at Western Michigan University. Auditioned, got accepted. It was kind of a big deal for me. And then, but I really, unfortunately, was not crazy about other technical aspects of theater, and I was going to be a theater major, performance major, but I had to still do a bunch of this technical stuff in relation to theater that I had no interest in. And so I was like, I kind of backpedaled and went a different route and ended up taking a lot of, I liked, had like a general interest in like English and writing, and actually did a lot in creative writing. That was another way, besides acting, I liked writing, and so creative writing, and really started doing a lot with like playwriting. There was more to do with that in terms of my degree that I found out versus like they really didn't have like a screenwriting major. I probably would have went that route, but I didn't quite at Western where I was. In hindsight, I wish I would have like took a step back and looked at maybe like some other possible film school, but I kind of just went along with where I was, and it was fine. Finished up with like a more of like a creative writing degree slash like communication in general, and it's like, now what am I gonna do? And through kind of a series of events, I ended up working like with and for Young Life, which works with high school students, and really enjoyed that. And and then that naturally led me into like thinking, well, maybe teaching that, that would obviously be working with high school students, and that would be good. And teaching film in Michigan is really rare, and so I got certified in teaching English, and then and went back to get my education degree to go along with it. Started teaching at Lakeshore High School, and quickly learned you can propose new classes based on your areas of expertise and things like that. And I was like, man, it would be great to teach a film class. And but right as a new teacher, that was kind of a bold thing. So it was after a couple years of teaching that I finally proposed it, and one like the film analysis, which I love watching movies, and then after that got approved, I was like, well, it'd be cool to make movies. And I at that point I really didn't know anything, and so I was really self-taught in terms of like all of that aspect. Most of the classes I took in college were film theory and analysis and all those things. So did a lot with like on my own, and learning like the video production aspect. And so so that is fun when I do pull back. I mean, it's enjoyable to work with the students, and certainly in these two areas that I actually really do enjoy. I get to watch movies that I like, and or force them to watch movies that I like, and hopefully for me, I feel like I would kill to take the classes that I teach, and not because I teach them, but those are two classes I would have done anything for to take in high school, and they just weren't around or available. So I first started officially making short films. Gosh, actually a good question. I want to say it was probably like maybe like 2008 or something. It actually started where I had written a play that was done and produced at the high school, and kind of did a very makeshift kind of movie version of that. But I say makeshift. On the whole, I think it turned out okay. and it was set at a high school, so that made it easy to film as the backdrop. And we did screen it, and that was kind of my first time. I didn't. Jason Field and I really worked on that together. Who Jason was also helping with Midwestern. But really, after that, I'd write some scripts, and I never was happy with any of them. And finally, I just had to pick one. And so that, when I finally did that, that was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And that's probably when I officially got going on my own, trying to write, direct, and act and edit and all that business. All right, well, let's start with the first one, because I think with each one I did learn a tremendous amount. The first one I did was called Recreated Date, and it took place in downtown St. Joe. In fact, that was the catalyst for the idea was, man, St. Joe's beautiful downtown. I want to take advantage of it. It was late summer, and I had written the script and pulled some people together, very small crew, and just was like kind of, you know, kind of innocently went about it and recognized how long it took. And so we filmed all day. We probably filmed for 12 or 15 hours, and we were running around and losing daylight, and just because I knew the people I'd asked to volunteer weren't available after this point in time. And so we made a push to do it. Audio wasn't great. I actually like of the scripts I've written, I actually kind of like that one, which is hard for me to say. So after that one, I did Amy, and that one, I didn't really have a fun little story about the other one, but anyways, Amy was done mostly at the Box Factory in, again, downtown St. Joe, but I have a friend, Michael Cook, who's appeared in every one of my films, but he's also a great artist and musician and cameraman, and anyways, he's a good guy to have around, and we used his music studio, and with that one, I think we added in a better microphone, and so really trying to focus on sound, and we switched to the use of a DSLR camera, which was huge for us. The first Recreated Date, we just used a regular, it was a very nice video camera, but it was still a video camera, and unless you're going to go on the way high end of that, I've learned you're not going to notice much of a difference. And so a DSLR was the smart, less expensive move, and that was kind of a takeaway from that. Amy, on the whole, I think worked out pretty good. Probably shot that in 4 days, but I had a scene where real quickly, it's based on this guy's. He writes plays and just locally, and the last one didn't get received real well. He's in the midst of trying to break up with his girlfriend, and he tries to write a script to help him do that. But anyways, one of the scenes, I needed a bunch of extras in the audience. That was really, I don't know why I did that, because that was really hard to get a bunch of people there and to sit around for a long time where you're trying to get things right. So with that, I learned the microphone, and again, just it takes a tremendous amount of time. The third one, Northbridge, all the way around, like, in terms of quality and technical. Can I say technical? The technical stuff, I think, was the best look we've had. For that one, I don't know how, it's hard to have too many opinions on my own stuff that I've written and whatever, but I think the script was fine. I think it had a couple good moments, but we probably, I'm trying to think how many days we spent on that. That was certainly 2 full days, and then there was probably several other pickup days for different things. And again, it was pulling a group of people together. I used a location that I didn't have as much control over, and so it was a friend of a family and using her house and getting and scheduling, and so I learned just the ins and outs with that. But in terms of the look, I think it looks, some of the shots look really, really good, and we did stuff with lighting. For that one, we brought in some lighting. I had a friend actually make some lighting equipment, like out of PVC pipe, and it made a huge difference. So the DSLR camera, the lenses, and this homemade lighting um, was was great. So, and then the most recent one is the one is Midwestern, and there's been no editing done really yet. Midwestern kind of rose to the top because I wanted to do something where that was really felt like one background or backdrop. So the whole film is just really in my front yard, and so I knew I had complete control over that. Um, and I wanted to get away. My other three films unintentionally all deal with failed relationships, and so it's been like the failed relationship trilogy. I've dubbed it, but so I just didn't even want to deal with that. And even though this is dealing with relationships, but two brothers, and so yeah, and so with that, I actually had thought about it, worked on the script, but it was probably like 2 years of, I say, production, and that wasn't like 2 years of slaving away on the script. I probably had a good, I I don't think I write really fast, but once I have an idea, I enjoy, like I did a lot of playwriting in college. I enjoy writing dialogue. And so for good or bad, I tend to crank that out pretty quickly and then get it to who would be my two friends who have really become my two, I don't know, like co-filmmakers in this process. One is Michael Cook that I mentioned, who's been and appeared in and plays my brother in this one, and Dave Greendonner are kind of my two go-to guys. Like, here's the script. Be honest with me. What do you think? And if they kind of give it a thumbs up. But it was, like last not this fall, but whatever 2014 fall. The script, we did a reading right before we went to see Gone Girl. That's the memory I have. So whatever that reference is, we did a read through, and then we did some planning. The big thing was we wanted to get audio right, and we could not. We had to figure out what we were going to do. Was we going to buy wireless mics or find them? And we just tried to figure that out for maybe not quite 2 years, but a long time, until a friend of mine kind of put me in touch with Bill Langbin, who recorded audio for us. He does professional video making, video production, and knows a lot about audio, and put us in touch with him, and he was able to do the audio for us. So pre-production, had the script, did the writing, read through. In terms of production, we did a lot of planning and storyboarding. Probably the most I've ever done with a film was on this one, because with dealing with a lot of volunteers and limited locations, it's tough to do. I like having things planned out, but I also like the idea of having some things like free or open, even to the point of the script. I think on the whole, we actually probably have the lines word for word. But there's definitely a lot of times you want to, in my opinion, improvise to make it feel more believable. So we wrapped filming on, I don't even know what it was, November, whatever it was, 7th, 8th. And I've just been in the process of downloading the footage and starting to figure out the audio. And when I sit down, I mean, I don't know how many hours, but it'll take a good chunk of time. So. Well, again, with Midwestern, I had the most hands on deck. I had 3 cameras, and I had someone on script. And for the smallest cast and the easiest production, I think I've just learned I need more people than I think. And we were recording the audio separately, and so just making sure we had just the setup and where we're going to station everything. Once everyone arrives, it's always a little chaotic. So that's always the first hurdle. We actually had worked on the script, again, rehearsed it more than we ever have. So that was actually, we had our lines down for the most part, not too many flubs. But what we quickly ran into is, because the whole movie is shot outside, playing basketball was... you're either going to get a good day or a bad day in terms of the weather, and we kind of had a in-between day. And so, meaning the sun was out, and so at times it was too bright, and so there were some clouds, and basically we'd have to wait for the clouds to move into place so that we had the better lighting to shoot. And so we kept playing that game, which really extended our day. It was a full day, probably easily from 8 to 5, and and it was now in the fall, and so it's going to get darker sooner here in Michigan, and so we played that game kind of. I say chasing light, but more like chasing the clouds, I guess, was kind of how it works. I think back to just when I remember starting to watch movies and paying attention to them. And generally, the common question, because I teach film classes too, is what's your favorite film? My general answer is Raiders of the Lost Ark, because I have a lot of fond memories of watching Indiana Jones do his thing and loving it, and of course, like any kid, wanting to replicate that in my backyard. And I just thought that was the greatest thing. So that was going on, but also obviously Star Wars movies were huge, and would want to do the same thing with them. And I think something clicked with me when I made the connection that the same guy who played Indiana Jones also played Han Solo, and in my mind I was like, that probably has to be the best job there is, like to be able to be those two people. And so for the longest time, as young as I can remember, I just wanted to do acting. I just wanted to be an actor and in movies. And I thought that would be fun. I felt like I struggle making decisions, and I thought, oh, the movies allow you to be a bunch of different things and different people, and so that was really appealing to me, and it sounded fun. And so as I continued to get older and whatever, and things just weren't quite as available, but like thinking of like watching other filmmakers who would go through this process, and one huge movie for me in terms of being influential was a really small film called The Brothers McMullen, written and directed by Edward Burns, who basically was doing, to some degree, what I'm trying to do, is doing a feature-length film, but went through all kinds of trouble, but eventually got it done, and more of a success story, got it and into Sundance, and ended up winning something. And I was just like, oh, I don't know, maybe that's like the cliche story, but I was like, man, like, and you, at this point, it seems like anyone, for good or bad, can write, direct, and make your own film, and then give it to someone who deems it good enough, and possibly launch some kind of a career. So I've had ideas of like feature-length films, but knowing what it takes just for the short film, and I still don't think I've even put in the kind of time, effort, energy, and money to make like a really great film. Although, again, I think at the end of the day, if you have a good story and your sound's decent and your lighting, if the story's there, in my opinion, then it'll carry the day. So all those things I think kind of inspired me, and still do. I still haven't let go of trying to do something in film. So